Sadma. Bando moi savadhana mate. Bando moi savadhana mate. Jahara prasade vai e bhavatoriya jai. Jahara prasade vai e bhavatoriya jai. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoite. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoite. Guru mukha padma vaikya chitte koriya aikya. Guru mukha padma vaikya chitte koriya aikya. Arna kori ho mane asha. Arna kori ho mane asha. Shri Guru charane rati aise uttama gati. Shri Guru charane rati aise uttama gati. Jai prasade pure sarva asha. Jai prasade pure sarva asha. चाकू दान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से. चाकू दान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से. दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित. दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित. प्रेम भक्ति जाते आविद्या विन्यास जाते प्रेम भक्ति जाते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेदे गाय যাহারা চরিত वेदे गाय যাহারা চরিত श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनारा बांधो 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 लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हा प्रभु करो दया देहु मोरे पारचया 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 एबेजा सुशिक्त भुवाना एबेजा सुशिक्त भुवाना एबेजा सुशिक्त भुवाना श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आरम जनारा बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आरम जनारा बंधु लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हा प्रभु करो दया देहु मोरे पारचया हा प्रभु करो दया देहु मोरे पारचया एबेजा सुशिक्त भुवाना श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पावना श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पावना जय प्रभुपादा 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 जय प्रभुपादा प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय राधा कल चंजीरा रे Jaya Radha Kalachandji Radha Kalachandji Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Kalachandji Radha Kalachandji Shri Radhe Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalaya Taksham Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundaram Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Auravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana. Gari Govardhan Madana Mohana. Giri Dari Govardhan Madana Mohana. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Govinda. Jaya Radhe, Govinda. Jaya Radha, Kalachandji Radha, Kalachandji Radhe. Jaya Radha, Kalachandji Radha, Kalachandji Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jagannatha, Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai. Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Shri Radha Kalachandji ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.
His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Purvikacharya Sutera Satta Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Shri Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki Jai. Jamuna Mai ki Jai. Ganga Mai ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Granta Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki Jai. Priya Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution ki Jai. Transcendental Prasadam Distribution ki Jai. Go Premanandi. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Cartels? Gopi Channa Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Channa Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajananjana Yashodanandana Brajajananjana Oh Yashodanandana Brajajananjana Jamuna tira vanachari Jamuna tira vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari O Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Hey Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari O Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari O Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Hey Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana O Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Kalachanji Radha Kalachanji Radhe Jai Radha Kalachanji Radha Kalachanji Radhe Jai Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Radhe Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jai 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 Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Radha Madhava ki. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1. Verse 1 through 16. Do you have a mic over there? You want to go around and read we can read a few verses, everybody.
Text 1. Sukadev Goswami said, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering the forest, King Vidura, the great devotee, asked this question of His Grace Maitreya Rishi. What else is there to say about the residential house of the Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. He used to enter that house as if it were his own, and he did not take any care of Duryodhana's house. The king
asked Shukadev Goswami, where and when did the meeting and discussion take place between Saint Vidura and His Grace Maitreya Muni? Kindly oblige, my lord, and describe this to us.
Saint Vidura was a great and pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his questions to His Grace Rishi Maitreya must have been very purposeful, on the highest level approved by learned circles.
Sri Sutta Goswami said, the great sage Shukadev Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics attentively.
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons, and thus he set fire to the choir house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas.
The king did not forbid his son Dushasana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadi, the wife of the godly king Yudhisthira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast.
Yudhisthira, who was born without any enemies, was unfairly defeated in gambling. But because he had taken the vows of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of the kingdom, he was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion.
Text 9. Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it was not so for the others, who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king Dhritarashtra, or Duryodhana, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously.
When Vidura was invited by his elder brother, Dhritarashtra, for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known, and instructions by Vidura are approved by expert ministers of state.
Vidura said, you must now return the legitimate share to Yudhisthira, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, and among whom is revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him.
Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members. The king and princes of the Yadu dynasty who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their lord.
You are maintaining offense personified. Duryodhana as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a known devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family.
While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni.
Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath.
Thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme.
Okay.
By
so
his
this is where we're supposed to stop. You want to? Should we read the Sanskrit for this one? Sorry. No. Okay, we're supposed to focus on this shloka. So read the Sanskrit. Swayam dhanurdvari nidayamayam Bratu paromarmashu taditopi Saitamatyu labana karna banair Gatha vyato yaruru manayanaha Swayam dhanurdvari nidayamayam Bratu puro marmasu taditopi Saitamatyu labana karnavanar Gata vyato yarurumanayanaha. What do? You do 3 times and then others chant it, or how do you do it? Okay, whoever would like to chant. Swayam dhanurdvani nidayamayam Partur paromarma suvaditopi Saitamatyu labana karnavanair Gata vyatoya rurumanayanaha Swayam dhanurdvari nidayamayam Bratu puro marma sutaditopi Saitamatyul Banakarnavanar Gata Vyatoya Rurumanaya Naha. You do word for words? Okay. He himself, Danur Drachi, bow on the door, Nidya, keeping, Mayam, the external energy, Bratu, brothers, Puraha, from the palace, Marmasu, in the core of the heart, Taditya, being afflicted, Api, in spite of, Sa, he. Thank you. Panai, by the arrows, Gatya Vyataha, without being sorry, Ayat, excited. Great, Manayana. So we'll read the translation again. Yeah, go for it.
Thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme.
Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord is never perturbed by an awkward position created by the external energy of the Lord. So I just want to say, usually Prabhupada's first sentence is like the everything power pack, just like, everything else kind of explains. If you look at a lot of Prabhupada's purports, the first sentence is like, could be like your lifelong mission. How can I implement this? So I'll read it again, then we'll carry on. A pure devotee of the Lord is never perturbed by an awkward position created by the external energy of the Lord. Like they say in India, full stop. Period. In Bhagavad Gita 3:27 it is stated, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. A conditioned soul is absorbed in material existence under the influence of different modes of external energy. So that's like the exact opposite of what the pure devotee, how he's motivated or how he moves in this world. So I'll read it again. A conditioned soul is absorbed in material existence and under the influence of different modes of external energy. Absorbed in the false ego, he thinks that he is doing everything by himself. The external energy of the Lord, the material nature, is fully under the control of the Supreme Lord, and the conditioned soul is fully under the grip of the external energy. Therefore, the conditioned soul is fully under the control of the law of the Lord. But due to illusion only, he thinks himself independent in his activities. Duryodhana was acting under such influence of the external energy, by which he would be vanquished at the ultimate end. He could not accept the sound advice of Vidura, but on the contrary, he insulted that great soul, who was the well-wisher of his whole family. Vidura could understand this because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. In spite of being very strongly insulted by Duryodhana's words, Vidura could see that Duryodhana, under the influence of Maya, the external energy, was making progress on the path towards his own ruination. He therefore considered the facts of the external energy to be supreme, the acts. He considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. Yet he also saw how the internal energy of the Lord helped him in that particular situation. A devotee is always in a renounced temperament because the worldly attractions can never satisfy him. There's also like a, you know what a sutra is? You guys heard of a sutra? It means where there's a lot of information packed in one little sentence or one phrase. So this sums up also the devotee's mentality. A devotee is always in a renounced temperament because the worldly attractions can never satisfy him. Vidura was never attracted by the royal palace of his brother. He was always ready to leave the palace and devote himself completely to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Now he got the opportunity by the grace of Duryodhana, and instead of being sorry at the strong words of insult, he thanked him from within because it gave him the chance to live alone in a holy place and fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. The word gata vyataha, without being sorry, is significant here because Vidura was relieved from the tribulations which trouble every man entangled in material activities. He therefore thought that there was no need to defend his brother with his bow because his brother was meant for ruination. Thus he left the palace before Duryodhana could act. Maya, the supreme energy of the Lord, acted here both internally and externally. I'll just do one Mangalacharana prayer. People usually don't do it, right? I'll just do one. Om Gyan Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Do you guys usually do the whole thing? Okay. No, that's fine. I want to go with the flow of other people's. Okay. Esther says do the whole thing. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. So first I'd like to thank all the devotees for this opportunity, and very blessed to be in your association. It was very encouraging to see all of you engage in the prime duty of human life to hear and chant about Krishna. So the pastime here is talking about how Vidura, the brother of Dhritarashtra, left the palace. And I don't know how many of you have read the Mahabharata. It's an amazing book, isn't it? It's like the history of, I haven't read it myself. My wife's reading it to the family, to the kids at home the past so many weeks. And it really sets the scene if you want. I mean, I guess there's a lot of books to read in Krishna consciousness, but that's one of them that really sets the scene. So I'll just set the scene a little bit here, where Pandu was the father of the Pandavas, and he had Dhritarashtra was his blind brother. Pandu passed away, and he was meant to rule the world, and on his behalf, or because he wasn't there, his brother Dhritarashtra, who was blind, became the king, and he had 100 sons, and Duryodhana was one of those sons, and he didn't want the sons of Pandu to rule the world, or the Pandavas, So he did all these, like we see here. Now he's insulting Vidura and telling him to get out of the house and leave him only with his breath. Basically, just toss him out like a rejected cloth, just like a piece of garbage, which is highly, offensive to a family member. And what was Vidura's situation? Vidura was trying to give sound advice, as Prabhupada puts in the purport. He was always trying to counsel, and not for his selfish interest. He had no interest in the palace. He was just wanting them to do the right thing, to be spiritual, to be equiposed. What does it mean to have equal vision? Is to see everybody, not just, oh, this is my family, this is my sons, I should, treat them with different, with more affection, give them the best, and others we can just reject, like Duryodhana is showing by his example. So Vidura took this opportunity. He was always ready. It says a devotee, they're always ready to act for the ultimate pleasure of Krishna. And if that means giving up everything, right? That means he just left. He put his bow, left with nothing. And happily. Although it did say in the purport that he was, what does it say? Afflicted to the core of his heart. Which is interesting, because a devotee, we're sentient, right? We have feelings. We're, as the soul is a person, and we have emotions. And even when you're perfected, it's not that sometimes people think the perfection of spiritual life is that you don't get affected by whatever people say to you or what happens in the dualities of material life, that you're just like a stone. That's one idea, that you don't have desires. But no, you may be hurt to the core of your heart, but still you act with righteousness. See, that's the devotee's disposition, is that because they're so full within themselves of spiritual satisfaction that they can make choices that others may not be able to make. Like when we're not internally filled up with spiritual experiences, with satisfaction that comes from not just the external circumstances, then we depend on the externals to give us our pleasure. So that if something external, if somebody insults us, if somebody hurts us, then the immediate reaction is that we have to get back, we have to insult back, we have to injure. But no, a devotee has a deeper, let's say, a deeper well, a deeper source of opportunity of how to make choices. Basically, that's what the verse is talking about here, is how Vidura could make such a choice. Because his heart, or his life, was so filled up with spiritual satisfaction by reciprocating with Krishna through his devotion, that he could make such a choice to just leave the palace. That means basically he, any chance of material comfort, he wasn't interested in. He just left. And what did he do? He went on pilgrimage. He took that opportunity to just go to holy places and become more purified and more absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Whereas somebody who may not be well practiced in devotional life, they won't have the ability to choose such a thing. They'll think, well, how can I insult, how can I change the circumstances? They'll fight like tooth and nail, they say, fight till their last breath to maintain what material happiness they think they're living for. One example that comes to mind is Maharaj Parikshit. When he was cursed, y'all know that pastime when Maharaj Parikshit put the snake on the sage, and the sage's son cursed Maharaj Parikshit. That's the whole basis of the Bhagavatam. He cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die in 7 days. And Maharaj Parikshit, he was powerful. He could counter curse because he was so powerful. But he decided, no, this is the will of providence. This is the destiny that Krishna wants to give me, so let me go along with it. Similarly, Vidura, he saw this as nature. He saw nature as all-powerful, right? And Prabhupada says in the purport that a devotee sees that Krishna's hand is in every activity. So this is the lesson here, that we're meant to see the Bhagavatam and see these examples and absorb them in our own life when we are faced with challenges, or at every moment when we're faced with a decision, should I do this or should I do that? Our mind should fill with examples of the devotees of the Lord, and how did, like the people, the Christians, they have that wristband that calls it's what would Jesus do? So the devotees should think, oh, what would Prabhupada do? What would Vidura do? What would these great souls do? What would the devotees at Krishna House do? What would my friends, do in this circumstance? So that's, example is better than precept, they say sometimes. So we have these examples from thousands of years ago of how devotees acted, and we also have the devotees around us, our community, that are living, following in the footsteps of these great souls, trying to make their life's decisions according to these great examples. And we take the personal examples also, we see. So we have a big blessing and a big stock of information of how to make choices. When we're in the material energy, to different degrees, basically we're more limited. We're controlled. Should I eat at McDonald's or should I eat at Burger King? It's a bad example, but when you get in devotional circumstances, then your choices become bigger. Should I take prasadam at Govinda's? Should I, whatever, you know what I mean. Your choices become, your ability to exert your free will becomes more empowered by Krishna's mercy. And that's what Vidura is exemplifying here. The ability to just give up everything. His bow, that means he's just walking out with the clothes on his back, and happily. Although his heart was hurt, that's also an interesting, his heart, he was hurt by the offense of his nephew, but he still happily went out, took it as Krishna's hand in his life. Whereas a devotee sees that not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord, right? So a devotee is seeing everything in life, even Maya, which means the external energy of the Lord. The devotee sees, okay, this is Krishna's energy. This is Krishna's gift. This is Krishna's love working in my life. Now how to make a decision and then move forward to please Krishna. So just a little thoughts. Now I'd like to open it up for discussion, and maybe people can say what they got from just the reading today or the talk. Yes?
So there's kind of this common conception, at least with the Hare Krishnas, but with kind of spiritual movements, is that when you come in contact with them, there's like the impulse, forget my family, forget my mom, forget my job, forget my car, and they just kind of like run off and go to spiritual life or something like that. And we often hear that it's kind of discouraged to, for some people it's encouraged, but others it's discouraged to drop your duties or drop your obligations to go pursue spiritual life. I'm kind of wondering how we can apply that kind of quitting home type.
Yeah, I think this is definitely circumstantial. He was about to be killed, most likely. So it was like also, Duryodhana is not a light kind of like, Kali Yuga inmate, or he would like, a warrior, and he would have killed him most likely. He was a. So it was like also a life and death decision in one sense. But yeah, definitely spiritual life is a balance at all times. But it's also like what comes to mind is like, when somebody goes to school, like all of you are at that age where you would most likely be in a career, maybe a little older, starting to build up. When you go to college, sometimes it's looked at like that. If you may not call your parents obviously every day, maybe once a month, because you're like in boot camp or so. You go to boot camp, so sometimes you need a little immersion. So you may not, call your mom or your dad or your family members every day, while you get a little absorbed in your devotional career. So it's natural, even in other spheres, to put your energy more into spiritual life. But yeah, it's definitely a balance, whereas some people are situated like yourself. You've taken vows to be a brahmachari for a certain amount of time. Others, they may know from the get-go, okay, it depends when they come into spiritual practice. Okay, I'm already at this stage, I don't have the time to do that, or okay, I should start pursuing my family life alongside practicing Krishna consciousness. Everything in spiritual life, from my experience, you should have a support system. You should have mentors, people your age that you say, hey, I'm thinking to do this, what do you think? People that are older, that might have gone through it, what do you think? Your guru, a formal mentor. Great question. Yeah, I think as we see, just like ISKCON, it's like growing up, right? Just like as a society, we're growing up. We learn from the mistakes of the previous practitioners also. And a lot of the devotees, they may have prematurely given up their families, given up their given up their connection with the material world, and they probably could have done more for themselves and for their family and for the world if they stayed connected and tried, like Vidura tried. Vidura went right into his family and spoke, I think you should act more spiritually, you should realize you're eternal, you should realize you're the soul, realize Krishna's God. And Vidura his brother, Dhritarashtra, didn't listen, and his nephew wanted to kill him almost. So yeah, time, place, circumstance. Anybody like to say more on that, or ask something else? Welcome back.
Yeah, I was just thinking that on the topic of renunciation and how you should know, like, whether it's good or it's bad, encouraged, discouraged, because there's so many different opinions. Thinking that basically the only reason we do anything is if it's favorable for remember Krishna, or if it's unfavorable. So if you're able to remember Krishna, or preach, or act in a way that helps you, then you don't need to renounce anything. And then if you need space, like for me specifically, it's like when I was living in Austin, all my friends were just all in bands and they're partying every weekend and they're drinking and whatever. So for me specifically, it's extremely helpful to go to the ashram and have some distance, because while I was there, I was, staying up all night and then thinking like, oh, Manga Arti's in an hour. And so for me, it was good to have that space, and to have teachers who encourage you or help you discriminate.
Yeah, it's a great insight. Yeah, sometimes they say devotees, we don't renounce everything because everything's Krishna's, and they make the example like if you go into a bank and you're just like, this money, I renounce it all. That's like, Prabhupada makes that example. It's like us, we think, like say we become a brahmachari, sannyasi, we think you could get proud. You could think, yeah, I've given up all the things of the material. But what have you given up? Nothing was yours in the first place. So everything's Krishna's, so there's nothing. What we have to renounce is the misconception that we can enjoy separately from Krishna. Others? Let me just ask, what was the theme of the, because Prabhu told me there was a certain theme, and I was given the theme. Not that I could pick my own theme, by the way. There was a theme. Can anybody say what the theme was? Okay, I didn't do a good job. Huh? Yeah. Why, yeah. Why did Vidura choose that? How did he? Okay. Welcome to Radhakala Chanjidam. You gonna live here for a bit, or are you just on a spiritual vacation?
I'm gonna be here for the semester break.
Oh, cool.
But I'm considering staying here for the fall semester.
Nice.
Okay, so two things. One is how important developing your faith is. That's one of the things that came out to me. Another thing is someone in Krishna House in Houston said that your desires are like your curriculum. So you can have your desires. You don't have to push them away as long as you can transform them to be in relation to Krishna. So you're carrying out those desires and you're carrying out, you're basically like in a service attitude. And you're slowly purifying those desires in relation to Krishna. So it's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we're not Mayavadis, or we're not formless. The soul has likes, dislikes, and the perfection of life is to enhance our spiritual desires to please Krishna.
I was appreciating Janaki's point, because it's really interesting that Arjuna, who was also thinking about renouncing and going to the forest, Krishna said, no, you're a warrior, you stay and fight. But in this case, because of Vidura's situation, he did renounce his family. It wasn't conducive to his Krishna consciousness. And so, the devotee is always looking at how to please Krishna, how they best can please Krishna. And so two similar situations, two totally different outcomes. Very interesting.
Yeah, Krishna keeps us on our toes.
I guess to consider on the theme of renunciation, I like in the purport how Prabhupada says a devotee is always in a renounced temperament. So that's the combination of those words, renounced temperament.
Yeah, like Vaisheshika Prabhu likes to say, he says in the material world, there's like we should have like a big sign. There's nothing here for you. If you like window shopping, you're kind of looking, should I buy it? Should I not buy it? He says like a devotee's mentality, a sign should come up. There's nothing of interest here. So I guess the more we're filled up with reciprocating through our devotion with Krishna, then we have a storehouse within our heart to make these, like Carmen, is that your name? Carmen was saying that to increase our faith, have to have little experiences more and more through our practice, through our efforts to please Krishna. And Krishna gives us bliss, gives us some taste, and we're like, oh yeah, I can do more. I can go for that. Until that sign is like the front of our brain. Yeah, nothing of interest here. Whole material energy, just like.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
What's your name again?
Dayalu Harinam Das.
Doyal?
Dayalu.
Dayalu.
Harinam.
Harinam.
Das. Hare Krishna.
Dayalu Harinam.
Thank you for the nice class, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Prabhu, in your experience, maybe as a brahmachari or as a grihastha, how have you found the balance between accepting things as Krishna's will versus trying to work or form something for yourself?
Yeah, right? Now you're loud. He says that's a really good question. I don't. No, and I agree. It's 8:30, so I'll give a super short one, but I can think about it for the rest of my life and give you an answer and when we're 50, when you're 50. Well, the thing is, it's kind of dynamic. Like what comes to mind is Giriraj Swami. Prabhupada asked him, what would you like to do for Krishna? And Giriraj Swami, because of his nature, he was like, Prabhupada, whatever you would like me to do. Prabhupada said, no, but what would you like to do? I'm asking you, I want you to answer. But his nature, he was like, no, but what would you like me to do? But he explains that he was showing him, or amplifying the idea that we also have our individual offerings. It's Krishna, we're not robots in Krishna's hands. In a sense, like Nanda Braja was saying, okay, Krishna wanted Arjuna to fight. That's one thing. If you have a direct instruction from Krishna, Krishna wants you to do, but at a lot of the times at our stage, it's like Krishna's there, like the deity. Okay, whatever you want to give me. He's not like, if the person cooks a certain prep, Krishna's like, no, I didn't want that. No. So the deity form is like whatever the devotees, whatever kirtan they offer, whatever they want to offer, Krishna's reciprocating. So a lot of the times at this stage of our devotional life, it's okay, we're making the choices. Do I want to get married? Do I not want to get married? Sometimes people may say, oh, Krishna didn't want me to. That may be there, but I think a lot of times at our stage, it's like we're approaching Krishna on how we want to. So when you get married, those choices, a lot of life choices when you go to get married. Or even as a brahmachari, you have the desire, should I focus on this service? Should I focus on that service? I think Krishna gives us a lot of leeway, or a lot of options for us to make our offerings in life. And then I feel maybe it's more intricate the more we become intimately connected and more of an instrument in Krishna's hands. Then it might be like Prabhupada when Prabhupada was passing away, remember this, Prabhupada said, the devotees Prabhupada said, you can pray to Krishna, my dear Lord, if you so desire, please keep our master with us. If you so desire. Please keep him alive, and if you so desire. And then at one stage Prabhupada said, Krishna has given me the decision whether I should stay longer. That's pretty intricate, right? Should you live? Should you die? Kind of. Yeah, it's a dynamic thing. And just like in a relationship, sometimes somebody's giving, sometimes somebody's receiving, sometimes somebody's controlling, so to speak, sometimes somebody's passive, and then the dynamics change.
I was appreciating out her earlier. Also, you talked about having people around you that you can talk, because they can help you make those choices. Sharing it with your friends, or having those mentors and stuff, and you share.
Yeah, that's essential.
Yeah, right.
Got to have so many support groups. More the better. I mean, that'll help. Not that it's so big that you can't. Oh yeah. We'll leave the last words for Master. Master Esther.
Okay, so from what I've heard being at the house, I remember there was a speaker that said, and along with what Carmen just said, you can do other things outside of like being completely spiritual, because if you keep God in your mind while you're doing it, for example, if you're going to work and you're speaking to people, you can use that as a way to help people. And if you're doing it for God, He doesn't want you to die of starvation. He wants you to live and have a happy life. So that's that is a service to God, keeping yourself alive so that you can serve Him. So if you think about it like that, and also if you're serving others in your job, doing it that way is a good way to serve God in your work.
Thank
Also,
you.
you can like give money to charity and stuff like that. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. So enjoy your day. Hare Krishna.